There was once a term used in the church. You rarely hear of it today. But despite its infrequency with which it is mentioned, the concept, I think, is still valid. By the way, let me tell you in the beginning, I've never preached on this topic until today, and it's backsliding. Term backsliding was popularized in the 16th century by John Bunyan in his very famous allegory, which is titled Pilgrim's Progress. It is a story of three people. Christian and hopeful are on their religious pilgrimage. While on the journey, they began to discuss an individual by the name of Temporary. He had started the pilgrim, but along the way, he fell by the wayside. Or, as Bunyan worded it, backslided. The term was picked up practically not so exclusively by the Methodists in early Americas, but became a cliche. It referred to those once faithful individuals who had lost their interest in their religious pilgrimage. There are many denominations who do not affirm the concept. They say there's no backsliding. They say once saved, always saved. Methodists have never affirmed that, because it implies that if a person becomes a Christian, then he loses his free will. Do you lose your free will? But this concept says you lose your free will to turn back, so you cannot turn back. The individual who was free to choose the way to Christ, we insist, Methodists, is still free to turn back. Man can experience no level of grace that is beyond the possibility of falling. Yes, Jesus had just finished one of his more obscure teachings. He said several things which confused some of the listeners. I'm the bread of life. Confused people. Because he compared this with the manna, we heard it. Manna, people ate, died. On that bread that people eat, those who eat will never die. Next he said, I'm the bread that came down from heaven. Come on, guy. We know where he's from. Confusing concept again for people. Next he says, everyone must eat this bread and drink this cup. Blood, otherwise will die. It sounded like cannibalistic. Tell me honestly, if you were part of that crowd that day, first time hearing, what would be your reaction? I think I would be, wait a minute, I'll be looking this side. Aren't we lucky? We have heard it many times, we have believed it, we have experienced it, we have observed it. Yes, what he said is true and will always be true. We are the lucky ones, we are the blessed ones. But let's remember one thing. It's not our doing. That's why I said when I was reading the gospel reading, catch it. Peter and the others often were challenged, but Jesus tells how would they able to withstand the challenge, and how can we? Unless the Father draws one to me, no one come to me. That's Peter, what Peter and the others, they were able to stand. And that's what Jesus also, another time Jesus said, when Peter talked about Jesus' identity as to who I am, he said, this is not from the blood and flesh that you have come to confess this. This is from my Father. Not our doing. Not our doing. Continue. Yes. We hear these radical statements of Jesus. Many of his disciples turned back, no longer going with him. They became temporary, with a slip of the tongue. I don't think there is a single reason actually why. There's not one reason that they turned back, several reasons. I've listed here a few. His teaching confused them. His image offended them. It was his claim to be the new source of life. Wow. We know where he's from, who he is. His claim to be greater than Moses confused them, being new manna. Yes. Either way, they were not buying it, and they left. Just like that. One day they were his followers, the next day they were not. And that's nothing new. A lot of people, and we will discover that, experience the same thing, go through the same. But let me give you, backsliding is a reality, be it today, or be it in the biblical times, or in the Bible, or in the churches. Let me go right on to biblical, two examples from the Bible. And one is that of Saul, the first king of the ancient Israel. He started well. He was well liked. When the Bible describes him, he's taller than everybody else. That means well liked. But what happened? What happened? He became jealous. Only one example I'll give you. He became jealous of David. God was bringing David to be the next king. He became jealous of David because David killed more than him in one fight. This is God's doing. He tried to kill David 2-3 times. Saul. Okay? Another time, God had told him he had gone on a war not to bring any animals. He brought some. He brought many. And when the prophet went to visit him, God sent him, go tell him that. He said, I brought them for sacrificing. Right. Very important message by God given to him. Obedience is better than sacrifice. So Saul was rejected by God, backsliding because of backsliding. Another one, less known person I want to mention is mentioned by Paul 3 times in his epistles, and his name is Demas, D-E-M-A-S, Demas. First time Paul mentions him with Luke. They are on a journey. Second time, he has backslided. And this is how Paul describes him in second letter to Timothy. Demas, in love with this present world, has deserted me. Me mean he's no more in the line where I am as an ambassador for Christ, taking the image from the first reading. Yes. In a few words, we have the story of a man's life. Man's life means every one of us' life. What started with us with so much promise ended in disappointment. Backsliding is not merely mentioned in the biblical characters, but also in our churches. You will hear the testimony from Steve. There is a backsliding there in his story. Some of us, let me call him again. Carl, wasn't there backsliding? Yep. And some of us may have gone through that period too. What's backsliding today? How many people? Where do we see it most? College students? When they go away from home, mama, daddy not there? Okay. Where else do you see? People make progress, advancement in their job, okay, or money. We don't need God. God is out of the picture. Where else? Love life, marriages, new marriages, everything is going well. We don't need God. So backsliding is a reality. Most of all, perhaps, people turn back because our priorities are reversed. Increasingly, people resort to excuses as to why they cannot come to church. A lot of excuses come up. Sports, hobbies, what else? Job, I'm working Sundays. Well, there are other days, there are other times that maybe. Anyway, but a lot of excuses, nothing new. All living things, remember this, can die through neglect. Plants die through neglect. If you don't water them, they die. Animals, dogs, pets, they'll die. Neglect. So can we, out of neglect. I've never met a person who crashed out of the Christian life, who woke up one morning and announced, from now on, I will not be a Christian. It's not one time. Slowly, things build it up. One Sunday after another, missing one day of prayer, missing one day of study, then it builds up on that. It's never happened once, only one time. Commitment, discipleship, long-suffering, faithfulness, they lack in today's churches, outside churches. No commitment. We don't want to be committed to marriage life. We don't want committed to one job. We don't want commit to something came to my mind. Yeah, even membership. We don't want to be members because that involves commitment. Yes. Here is a story of a guy, since we just watched the Olympics, this story is also of the Paris Olympics in Paris, but it's a long time ago, 1924. 1924, I was not even born. Olympics in Paris, and a guy named of Bill Heavens. He was on the swim team, Nancy. Boating, canoeing team. 4 of them were to go, and his wife was to have her first baby. Now, there is a dilemma now. Should I go with my team? Should I go there? And that's the same time my wife would have the first baby. What should I do? He decided to stay back. He decided to stay back, and yet the team won the gold medal. Isn't that awesome? Yes. Won the gold medal, Olympics, and Bill's wife was late in giving birth. So late that Bill could have completed in the event and returned home in time for the birth. People said, what a shame, but Bill had no regret. Catch this one. After all, his commitment to his wife was more important. A high price, yet, but not too high a price for someone he loved. Yes. Backsliding has consequences. Come on. All right. Consequences. No other story is more worth mentioning than Samson. He was one of the 12 judges in ancient Israel. You know Samson's story, right? Backsliding. As a judge, he was the last one, 12 judges. He was once such a rich, vital, had a relationship with God, but ever so slowly, he went the way of backsliding. One day, Samson got up to go battle with the Philistines, and in Judges 16:20, we read the most striking verse in his life story. What is that verse? He did not know that the Lord had departed from him. Consequences. Suddenly, Samson found himself in the middle of a battle, and he called upon his reservoir of faith, only to discover, much to his surprise, that it was empty. The tank was empty. Only then he was awakened to the reality that his relationship with God was not a burning fire, but a cold spark. What do you expect when you backslide? That's what you expect. Cutting the story short, we can come back to a closer walk with God. Remember, the distance that you have put between yourself and God means nothing. The tragedy is not the distance, it is that your love is no longer vital. I want to go to the next slide. Okay, that was the last one. Okay. Now, in our call to worship, and I was very pleased, I personalized it, underlining 3 words in our call to worship, and Jan read them well, emphasizing, why have you come here? And answer was personal. It's not we have come. This time I made it, I have come. She said then, why have you come here? Third one was here. And our answers were, we find Spirit's sanctuary here. I find Jesus here in my pilgrim walk. Okay? My prayer for each one of you and everyone, even those who are not here, is may these be their answers. May they find Spirit's sanctuary in their family, in their churches, at their workplaces, that God lead them and bless them. And all people of God said, amen. Thank you.